Welcome back to another episode of JP and the Beanstalk.
You bet. There's a great energy in the gym, a feeling of freedom, independence, America. We're fresh off July 4th, Beans.
Yes, we are.
We are.
USA.
USA. USA. USA.
Yeah, we're there.
Number one.
America.
Always. Back-to-back World War champs, undefeated, and the best thing to happen to this world since 1776.
Just makes you want to go dump some tea in the harbor. What? Sir. That's what it makes you want to do.
Mm-hmm. T or Ted, as in Parks and Rec, where did you ever see that episode? Where they toss the dude named Ted into the lake every single year.
I do remember
because of the suspect handwriting in the town charter. Fantastic. It's great to be here. It's great to be in this country. It's great to celebrate our country's birthday. Next year is 250 for this fine nation.
Oh, what are we going to do?
I don't know, but we've got 363 days to start planning. So
I feel like we have to blow something up. Something has to get blown to smithereens.
Interesting. Yeah. And here's the thing. Like, I know we live in a flawed country. I'm not immune or oblivious to that. But it is also a great country full of potential. And my little speech here is you've got the power to impact your world. So do it. And I don't mean the world. I mean your world. Impact the people that you're around. Treat them well. Show them respect. You've got the freedom to do that. You've also got the freedom to be a turd. I'd highly recommend avoiding the turd path. Choose the good path. It's right there for you.
I didn't like that we got sentimental.
Yeah, we did. We
That's
sure
what this
did.
podcast is for.
Okay, never again then.
Don't encourage hope here. I don't care if Superman is this week. All right, don't encourage hope.
Appropriately, it is Superman week.
It is.
We're days away from Superman dropping. It seems like we have waited a coon's age for the day, and the day is nigh. It is almost upon us.
It's coming up. It's coming close.
So naturally on today's pod, we will give our predictions for the upcoming Superman movie.
This is true.
Looking forward to that. But before we get to that point, we have a lot of recapping to do. I went and saw F1. It was terrific. Very excited to share my thoughts and feelings on that fine film. Going a little further back, I even went and saw the How to Train Your Dragon live action remake. Fun. Looking forward to talking about that. Beans, you took the time to watch all of Ironheart. Good on you. I'm excited to hear your thoughts and feelings on that fine work as well.
Well, somebody has to do the actual legwork for this podcast every now and again.
Mm-hmm. Well, we appreciate your sacrifice. It is noted in the annals.
Just notice how we're like, we need to get something done that we're like 50-50 on. Who back in the Rolodex, figure out who's always the one taking the bullets.
Who watched Agatha online?
Yeah, I wasn't watching that one.
We won't bring all the receipts. We'll just bring some of them. No,
I'm
we
just saying,
appreciate all your work, your time and energy are noted, acknowledged, and appreciated in this here workplace.
I just want to hear that sometimes.
Yeah.
The record is 100%. Way more in my favor than yours. But again, it's okay. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. People would agree. It's fine. It's all good.
We'll put it out there to a vote later. We'll also talk more broadly. This is a topic that I was pondering for a bit, and I thought today's pod would be the time to do it. Should Marvel limit itself to movies and start bypassing the TV show route? We will discuss, perhaps debate, perhaps this will be the last pod because we'll argue and disagree and never see each other again. Stay tuned. Without further ado, Beans, let's get into it. Ironheart happened. As we just noted, you watched it. I watched YouTube recaps and read some synopsis so that I could catch myself up to what you spent more time. Let's be real. You spent more time on this bad boy. I think the overall response to the show has been largely positive, and we give a grain or pound of salt amount of weight to the outside world's overall, shall we say, Rotten Tomatoes opinion. But I think the show overall, can we say thumbs up to?
I would agree, yes. I would say, because it was being 50-50, you know, they did have the review bombing of the show.
Isn't that
before
fun?
It even got started. And then
just knock it off.
And then the critics score got back up. I believe it's at 86, which is, wow, that's impressive.
Okay.
I don't know if I would go that high.
Sure.
But the audience score is still at like 50%, which I think is low. So I'd say in the 70% range, somewhere in the 70s is a fair rating for this.
And can we just pause here and reinforce that, once again, all of this is subjective. These are our opinions. These are everybody's takes. Develop your own freaking opinion. Develop your own take. By all means, hear from others. But at the end of the day, what matters about the content that you're consuming is, are you enjoying it? Are you getting something out of it that's entertaining, that's fulfilling, that's wholesome, that you can chew on for a good while? That's great. Then lean into it by all means. Okay. End of the pause. Resume.
Yeah. So, I mean, this show starts off, Riri gets kicked out of college because
Shame.
of not only selling her projects to other people to make money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the main reason why. So, and
usually frowned
the
upon
other
in
reason,
the collegiate realm.
right? And the other reason is what she is working, it tends to backfire more than not.
Whoops.
So yes, so she gets kicked out of MIT.
Yep.
And then she's forced to go home. And the whole premise of this show, really the meaning behind it, is that money isn't everything. Okay, that is the theme of this show. Because Riri's goal here is to accumulate and acquire cash, because she believes that money controls the world. That's why our boy Tony Stark, Iron Man, was able to accomplish everything that he was able to accomplish, is because he had the infinite amount of money and resource to do such things.
Yeah, resources can help.
So that is her thought process and her belief. And because of this, she falls into the wrong crowd with the Hood Gang.
Whoops.
And you see her go on a couple heists, which is kind of fun. And then...
Listen, if Anthony Ramos walked up to me out of the blue and like, we're going heisting. Like, yes, we are. I'm in. I would just inherently trust the guy, even when I knew that he was being really straight with me about this is not, shall we say, legal or by the book.
Right.
I'd be in. Like, Anthony, I want to be his bud.
And it's genuinely not like super evil intent in the first half
not terrible,
of the show.
Not like above average maliciousness here.
They are Robin Hood-esque. They are stealing from the rich. Not really giving to the poor part, but they are stealing from people that already have a ton of money. Poor. Yes. That is what it is, so they can get their feet off the ground.
We are Robin Hood adjacent here.
Move on with their lives, essentially. Because each one of them wants money for their own specific reasons.
Sure.
So after the first 3 episodes, something bad happens where Riri has to think through everything else to be like, oh, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And then for this back half, it's her versus the Hood.
Yep.
And you watch them kind of try to duke each other out. You figure out the Hood's motives overall in the final episode, which, funny enough, daddy issues. So.
Refreshing.
Right? Daddy issues for him. Daddy issues for our boy. Spoiler alert. Ezekiel Stane makes his triumphant entry into the MCU. And by the way, my favorite character of the entire show, he is a gem. Well done. I believe they stuck to his comic book counterpart as well, with the more biological technology upgrades rather than the actual suit itself. Very electric based.
Right.
He was fantastic to watch go through.
It's great.
So I would say
Zeke Stane is just a tremendous character and adversary to any Iron Man or Iron Man adjacent characters.
So, and I really enjoyed Ironheart throughout this whole show. She really grows as a character and as a person. She doesn't always make the best decisions, and we find that out towards the end as well. That was a little shocking. A nice little plot twist at the end. So we can get into some spoilers here a little bit now.
I think we certainly should.
Her main AI, instead of like Friday or Jarvis, is her best friend who died in a drive-by shooting. Okay. We don't know why there was a drive-by shooting in that area.
Sure.
We never find out, but she loses her stepdad, who she considered to be her father. And her best friend. While she's trying to create an AI from her own brain, she was thinking about her best friend, and the best friend becomes the AI. So she gets to have that relationship back with her best friend. But that is kind of the weight with Riri, is she has not handled those deaths. Even if they were 5 years ago, she has not handled them at all yet. So she's very...
You're saying trauma is a theme here.
Yes, as well. Of course.
What another shocker.
Of course.
Interesting.
So,
shocker.
Yes. So, lost her dad, Zeke Stain, daddy issues, and...
Can't imagine why.
And Anthony Ramos, the Hood, daddy issues. So, it's...
freaking dads.
Yeah, it's... yeah. So, hug your father. But... So she's going down this path, and towards the end, we get Mephisto, which makes his appearance for the first time.
By old Sacha Baron Cohen, long rumored, finally fulfilled.
Dude, creepy. Creepy.
Tremendous fit.
I was getting vibes. So I'm like, don't do it. This guy is not a good person to work with. You get the nice little reflection in the spoon of what Mephisto actually looks like.
Sure.
I wish you'd actually get to see it, but you do get the little nod. Right?
Yep.
He's the one who gives the Hood all of his powers.
Yep.
Which, watching the Hood spiral in the final one, and by the way, they kept him alive. Thank God. Great villain.
What a novel idea.
Zeke Stain, great
Also
villain,
alive.
also alive. And I don't know if he's even a villain technically. He's kind of in the middle ground territory at this
More
point
in
in
that
time.
gray opaque area.
Yes, because he's forced to be.
Sure.
So at the end of it, after she kicks the shit out of the Hood, she's now confronted with Mephisto. And you're like, does she make this decision or does she not? And at the end, you see that she does end up going through with Mephisto. So she still
brings her AI friend fully back. Correct.
Yeah, and she doesn't realize it in that flashback that is actually her as a human being. So it'll be interesting to see if that's actually her soul and body back in the real world, or if it's some counterfeit. That'll be interesting. We see that Riri did make that deal, which is also concerning because she just gave up one route for money, and you think you would learn your lesson after it not going over very well the first time, to now making a worse deal, arguably.
The partners that you're choosing, right? It's like, hey, you and Shuri are on good terms. Maybe partner up with Shuri, the Dora Milaje. I mean, there's options that are positive.
She does address that in the show because they're like, why don't you call Shuri? And she's like, I don't think Shuri's going to back me up on this, considering I'm the one who put myself into this situation. So...
That's a take.
Yeah, it is a take.
It's a take.
So I will be curious to see where this moves forward if we get a season 2. I'd like to see if Mephisto is going to be influencing other heroes and villains as well. Because that's just kind of what he tends to do, right? It's not just Riri who's gotten her hands tied with Mephisto. We see Spider-Man do that in the comics and make one of the worst comic book decisions of all time.
Right.
So if Spider-Man has made a deal with the devil, Riri is not going to be an exception there, and I'm sure that we're going to see more. I saw that there was a Champions storyline dealing with this actual thread of some of those young heroes making the deal with the devil, and it backfiring. So I'll be curious to see where that will go. We get another young sorceress as well, who is a character from the Strange Academy. She was a lot of fun. I'll be curious to see what they do with her, if anything, because she's going to be going off with the Hood. So I'll just be really curious to see where they go with Riri in this next season.
Right.
If the Hood storyline is
because it's super open-ended. I mean, there was not, from what I understand, there was not much in the way of genuine resolution. There was partial resolution, but a whole lot of questions yet to be genuinely answered.
Yeah, it was closed, and then it was opened again. So I am curious to see if that's what the next route, if they do a season 2. I would be open to it. By the way, the suit ups for the armors, awesome. I've seen this addressed other places as well, but I also missed old school Iron Man suit ups, and you get these here.
It's kind of like watching the Transformers armor either unfold or fold in, if you will, right? Going from robot mode to vehicle mode. That's always visually satisfying.
Funnily enough, Mephisto makes the comment, be like, are you going to get out of your Transformer suit so we can talk or what? And so it was good. I want to know what Mephisto's plan is.
Yeah.
Because he keeps, being like, oh, well, what do I have to give up for this? And this is, again, why I'm semi-surprised she ended up taking the deal, because I feel like it backtracks on her character growth just a little bit. Because they kept saying how magic, there is always a price when it comes to magic.
Sure.
And so you thought that might play in her head a little bit while she's going through this deal. And with her and with the Hood, he both said, he's like, or they're like, well, what do you want for all this? And he's like, something that you won't miss. I'm assuming it's their soul.
It's usually the cost, which somehow people can, constantly get convinced that that's not that bad. Seems like a big deal to me, but
I just feel like it's extremely vague.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that I really enjoyed is when they're trying to figure out who created the Hood, the sorceress girl essentially assumed that it was Dormammu.
Yep.
She's like, this is Dormammu. This has got to be Dormammu, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And Mephisto comes in and he's like, Dormammu? I am way stronger than that guy. So he's already established where he sits in the...
Well, you wonder what his angle is, too. Like, why partner up in any capacity with humans? Right? Similar to Dormammu when he's partnering in a certain, partner's a generous word, but we'll use it anyway, with Caecilius in the first Doctor Strange movie. It's like, what's the benefit here of this partnership for a Dormammu? Right? Like, what is the gain, in other words, that a Dormammu or a Mephisto experiences that makes sharing this power, lending it, however you want to phrase it, where's the benefit to them? And that's a question that has remained pretty well unanswered to this point.
For Dormammu, I believe, is to come into the human realm.
Sure.
With him, we don't know. And I think back to like the comics, the reason he wanted Spider-Man and MJ's marriage to break off, and I don't know if this is originally the plan when they decided to make this decision, but they later on reveal that he does not want them to conceive their child because Mayday Parker would be the downfall of him.
Yep.
So their child would be the reason that he would get beat, defeated, taken out, essentially. And that's why he got his hands into that one.
Right.
So the other stuff, he always has an end game. So I will be curious to see what his is with Ironheart.
Yeah.
Because we don't even fully know what it was with the Hood either. We just know what the Hood wanted, and that was pretty much to get back at his dad by taking over everything that his dad owned.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, not super surprising that he would want to do that because his dad is a dick.
Right? Loaded and a turd.
And a dick.
Yeah.
They kicked him out at 12, and he pretty much just like, after your mom died, I didn't really want you, which is crazy. That is crazy thing to say.
It's hard to say.
So, you had that one coming, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you're kind of asking for something at that point. Maybe not to that extent of son partners with demon and...
no.
Still, you're not going to have things end well.
He had it.
Yeah.
So, for all, like, I look at those 4 characters, I guess, out of this.
Right.
And it was worthwhile.
How did the 6-episode format feel? Did it feel like, hey, right quantity, too much, too little? Where did it land for you in that regard?
I think it worked out the way that they split it up. Because we got it in 2 weeks.
Correct.
I look at it as part 1 and part 2.
Correct.
Part 1 is very much focused on Riri falling down the rabbit hole of just trying to acquire money, being very successful.
Sure.
Heisting.
Yes.
Yep. And then playing around with her morals a little bit.
Right.
Because her whole thing is she doesn't want anybody to get hurt. Very honorable in that sense.
Sure.
And then she starts seeing people get hurt, but they didn't die, so it's okay.
Sure.
And then
these little compromises kind of stacking on top of each other.
And then she's responsible for someone else's death. And that's when she's like, oh, dang.
Yeah.
And Mephisto tells the Hood, hey, she did it. She's responsible. And so the second half is essentially her trying to prepare and get ready for the Hood and deal with all of the consequences of her own actions, essentially.
Right.
So, and learning that, she can't do everything by herself. She needs people to count on.
Yeah.
And, which I think everybody can learn from. So, yeah, gross, sentimental.
Anyways.
Anyways.
Oh, no, you broke the rules.
I know. Anyways, So I would look at it as
Pretty solid overall.
2 parts.
Yeah.
You could have done it, and
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
It did work.
For sure. Well, I think it's collectively a win considering the production background of the show. Like, this was filmed. So this has pretty well been in the can for 3 years. Like, they filmed this starting the summer of 2022 and wrapped at the end of 2022. So it's been waiting to be released for a substantial period of time. And so I'm sure there's been some tweaks, the usual reshoots. That's part of every production at this point. So I'm grateful that it still came out as a relative whole, right? Because when it's been that long since whether it be movie or show has been created since it was released, that kind of a gap can often create issues. And I'm not saying it's not uncommon for there to be a gap of sorts between end of filming and release. That's common, but 3 years is well beyond.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, the typical gap. I think it's a genuine win that the character of Riri did not get entirely overshadowed by introducing new characters like the Hood, like Zeke Stain. Seemed like they stayed in their lane, and even with Mephisto, like saving that particular reveal until the last episode and some change, I think is really sober-minded filmmaking, if you will. I'm crossing my metaphors here because it's a show, not a film, but I digress. And as you said, it's a big deal they didn't kill anybody, right?
Yeah.
Like, they didn't kill off genuine characters that we would like to see again and see more development with, like the Hood, like Zeke Stain, like Mephisto. He's a harder one to just entirely dismiss. And yet, even though they didn't kill off Dormammu back in the Doctor Strange movie, there has been nothing for a solid almost decade now since that particular adversary was introduced. So it seems like overall this was a win.
Well, it was even crazier too because they bring up Obadiah Stane and they're like,
sure,
yeah, Obadiah died in a plane crash 15 years ago or something like that, or whatever the year frame was, and you're like,
yep.
You're like, holy crap, it's been that long,
right,
since Iron Man came out.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have that, it does put things into perspective that way for sure.
Yeah, and Zeke Stain is a phenomenal character. You're right. He is more biologically based, but he does that intentionally so that he can be very, very difficult for Iron Man and any, again, Iron Man adjacent characters to combat, since he's not, strictly speaking, technologically based, right? He's not relying on a physical suit of sorts. He is the weapon.
Oh, he was great. He was the MVP of this show by a mile. You would enjoy the hell out of him, for sure.
Good for Alden Ehrenreich to have that opportunity as well, because that guy can bring it, and so I think that is a exceptional casting choice.
And I will be curious now, because we have had our first character revival in a sense, a first person brought back to life. It's comics, but in the actual MCU now, via Mephisto, I will be very curious to see who's next. I look at Yelena as a possible target moving forward to get Black Widow back, if that's the route they want to go. I'll be very genuinely curious what that looks like moving forward, because now they have essentially they've unhooked it. They have let that box open up. Of bringing people back from the dead. And making it make sense because magic. So I will be very curious at that front. Yeah,
what I would strongly prefer is that there is a high cost to pay for that kind of a revival, so that it isn't such an easy, let's just hit the fix it button. We brought the character back. You know what I mean? Like, it costs someone's soul. Like, there is a genuine heavy price to pay for that return. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 navigated the return of Gamora fairly well, in the sense that, Gamora, the character, was back, but not back in the way that she was able to fold right back into the Guardians of the Galaxy, or even her relationship or friendship with Peter Quill, that was still broken. And so there is a cost there of, yeah, Gamora is back. The character has returned, but not in the same, not in the pure sense as where we as the audience had learned to know and love her, and even her friends had learned to know and love her. It's a very different version of that character.
Yes, and we don't fully know the extent of Riri's deal yet either.
Yep.
We assume she's going after money and resources because she wants to continue to build suits and tech that will protect people.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is her goal and mission in life.
Yeah.
Mission in life is to be able to protect the people that she loves and cares about.
Yep.
And she did specify that she would be the only one affected by this. And she was genuinely surprised when her friend was real.
Yeah.
So that's a part of it.
Yeah. This is such a slippery slope. Like, my strong preference is just don't do it. Like, don't bring characters back, because it is I think, greatest weakness in comics when they invalidate character conclusions by just reviving them anytime they choose. It's like, actually, what you should do is be more careful about when you conclude a character via death instead of being so reckless with it. But it just cheapens both the death and the revival when you know that, they're just going to come back. It's not the end is heavy air quotes. It's not really the end.
Well,
I get.
And that final fight too, the Hood was going more and more to the demon side of things,
right?
Which I was getting excited about because if you know the Hood in the comics, he essentially has a demon form or shares his body with a demon. I don't know. It's weirdly complicated, but either way, he has access to demon-esque abilities and powers. Even more so, and it's starting to break out a little bit.
Yep.
And obviously, it's not that case anymore. But I'm wondering if when he gets the Hood back, it's going to be full on. So, because he's not going to take that thing back off.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's great. Fascinating stuff. I'm glad that overall it was a success, because I don't think that was. I think it had a lot going against it from a production point of view. So the fact that it got over the finish line as a win, I think is really encouraging.
And I think it
and 3 years after Wakanda Forever, so it's been a piece since we've seen anything to do with Riri Williams. Like that's a long time for a minor character to have to go between appearances to maintain any kind of relevancy. That's tough. That's not really putting that character in a position to be successful.
And I think too, it went in with people just assuming that they knew what it was going to be and what it was going to go through.
Gotcha.
We've had our issues with, I shouldn't say we specifically, but people have had their issues with certain Disney films leaning on certain things way more than they shouldn't compared to others.
Yep.
And people probably had the assumption that this would follow suit, and I can confidently tell you it did not do that.
Yeah.
Which is such a relief, to be honest. It was nice. It was fresh. I think anybody can go into this, watch it, and not feel pressured one way or another to view it from a certain standpoint or not. So just be open. I would say be open-minded going into it. Give it a chance. I think you'll be genuinely surprised.
I like that.
Because I was genuinely...
Yeah.
I didn't know what to think. I went in with zero expectations.
Yep.
I get nervous with Iron Man stuff because I love Iron Man, but the villains have missed left and right. And dang it, I wish he would have had... Tony versus somebody with magic would have been entertaining.
Truly.
That would have been so entertaining to watch him try to figure that out.
Oh,
yes.
Whoops.
Because Riri and her thought process on it was awesome to watch as well. Because she gets to a point where she's like, I need somebody with magic because I can't do this. I can't figure this out. It was beyond me.
Right.
So I would have loved that from Iron Man.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Here we are.
Good stuff. Anything else on the Ironheart front?
No, I'm good.
That's great. Great recap. Appreciate you taking the time to chew through it, enjoy it, and give us your thoughts and feelings. We love that. And even get sentimental for just a little bit there.
No.
Okay, so a topic here, and I wanted to take this opportunity now that we are close to wrapping up a really sizable chunk here of Marvel TV shows. to ask what I think is an important question of, should Marvel moving forward limit itself to movies? And this is going to be an extreme question, okay? And we're going to end up somewhere not at either extreme, but somewhere in the balance point. But truly, should Marvel just limit itself to making only movies from a live action perspective? Animated shows, fine, but live action movies, and abandon the live action TV show realm, okay? So it's an extreme outcome. I'm not necessarily advocating for that, but let's just do a little recap here. So we had our original, I'm going to call it the quadrilogy, back in 2021. WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, ended up being Loki season 1, and Hawkeye. Okay. All of those shows were including and incorporating characters that had been introduced and incorporated in multiple MCU films. So very well established characters. No new characters were, I say they weren't introduced. Of course they were introduced, but they weren't the primary draw, okay, for the show. Fast forward to 2022, very next year, now we're in the, hey, we're introducing new characters mode. Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk. Mixed bag, let's say, okay? Some positives and some real woofs, all right? And then the next 2 years, 2023 and 2024, we had the high, which I thought was Loki season 2. We had the low, which was Secret Invasion.
It's crazy that on that list, that is the low.
Yes. And then you had a little bit of in between. Echo, all right. Overall, not bad. Not incredible, but not bad. Agatha all along, kind of in that same vein. Certainly had its own flavor, had its own variety, but for what it was supposed to be, all right, not bad. And now in 2025, it feels to me like we are in the last chance for redemption for the TV shows. Because it's been a while since the highs of 2021. Heck, it's even been a little while since, if you want to say a little while in the parlance of movies and TV shows, since Loki season 2. You got Daredevil Born Again, part 1, really drawing from obviously previously established characters and storylines. Then you have Ironheart, which was just recently released, and here at the end of the year, we'll have Wonder Man. I don't want to dunk on Wonder Man just yet, probably, but I do. It's not going to be good. So that is a good chunk of, 14, 15 live action shows. I chose to leave out the animated What If series because to me, that's its own little beast. There's other animated works in there, but we're truly sticking with live action here. I have said multiple times on this podcast that I want Star Wars and think that Star Wars would be better served by leaning into TV shows because I think that is actually the better format at this juncture for Star Wars, a little more long-form storytelling. There's a ton of world building they can do. There's thousands of years that they can explore if and when they want to. And I think Star Wars has shown a strong enough track record with its TV shows to say, hey, yes, more of that, please. I am less convinced that that's the right path for Marvel. Could they get there at some point? Perhaps. But I feel like what happens so often in these shows, especially since they continue to focus on, listen, these are not A-list characters. They're just not. I don't think most of these characters can hold up to the weight of 8 episodes at minimum for their respective seasons. So I think Ironheart getting trimmed down to 6 made a lot of sense. I forget what Agatha all along. I feel like 8 was the right number, but I'm not correct there. I'm off by an episode or 2. In general, I think that's just been really, really difficult. Where the shows have succeeded is when you've had not just the primary character that the show is named after, but you've incorporated, like we saw with Ironheart. Hey, there's Mephisto. There's the Hood. There's Zeke Stain. That helps flesh these characters out. Falcon and the Winter Soldier had each other, and some other key characters chip in along the way. Loki obviously had an ensemble of really interesting and engaging characters that we were introduced to along the way of that show. But Moon Knight really didn't do well at bringing in other characters. It tried to just be Moon Knight for the most part, and that was a struggle. Same with She-Hulk. Same, I would say, with Ms. Marvel. Secret Invasion was just gross. I'm pretending still that didn't exist. Maybe I need to make a deal with Mephisto. Erase that from my mind. Take my soul, erase that from my mind. I think it's worth it. Do you? No? Okay. I'll keep
that's
thinking
a bad
about it.
idea. That's a terrible idea.
Can't keep thinking about it. But until Marvel can settle into what it actually wants its shows to be and not these extended miniseries for these minor characters, like they have to have a legit story to tell if they're going to do a TV show. I think it's challenging enough right now for them to pack a legitimate story into a 2 to 2.5 hour movie. It's like, listen, until you're willing to be limited with the amount of content that you're pushing out, which we think they're headed towards, I'm more leaning towards the side of just do movies. Please stop making TV shows for now and just do movies. Show us Riri Williams in the movie. Absolutely. Show us freaking Wonder Man. Fine. But in the movie, I don't want a show of Wonder Man unless you've got a banger of a story to tell that catches me by surprise, a la Loki. But that's hard to do. That takes intentionality and time to develop that kind of a story. Heck, even Star Wars with Andor. It's like, I didn't have any real prior interest in the character of Cassian Andor, but Tony Gilroy had a story to tell that he had developed for a substantial period of time before it got time to start shooting the dang thing. And so this juncture, I'm going, give me movies, but TV shows, let's pump the brakes on here. Where are you at? That's a lot. That's a big word vomit by me. I'd love to get your take on it.
I think we are in a better place right now for TV shows for Marvel. Daredevil is clearly a proven commodity already. Yep. So that one was already... It already knew what it was and wanted to be.
Yep, I think had a strong identity.
Correct.
And I would also say that's an A-list Marvel character.
Yes, I would.
That's not a Moon Knight. I'm not trying to dunk on Moon Knight. There's a good character and a good story to tell there. We just didn't. It didn't deliver.
I think we've had two things though.
Yep.
I think we are getting more time, focus on quality rather than the quantity. Mm-hmm. Clearly, a lot of those got pushed. Yep. You felt that in Hawkeye.
Hasty.
I would make the argument.
It didn't even look good.
No, it started with Hawkeye, to be honest with you. Yes. Hawkeye was the start of it. Yep. They're like, oh, let's just get Jeremy Renner in here. Yep. You look at Moon Knight. Moon Knight was not bad. And
it had some genuine strengths, no question.
There were some concepts and stuff that felt like they left out because they didn't want to show it. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Well, I remember legitimately not seeing action scenes.
Correct, because they blacked out. Right.
Yep.
Miss Marvel, I can't vouch for. I don't know. I didn't watch it. That was not made for me.
Yep.
That's what we'll leave it
at the audience.
I would also make the argument She-Hulk was not made for me. Mm-hmm. And that's there. Mm-hmm. And that one also felt rushed because of, and I'm not even talking about from a storyline perspective. I'm going off of the massive complaints in the CGI department that show
both are valid, by the way. Like the storyline was sloppy. The visuals were disrespectful.
Right. And even with like Miss Marvel, we can talk about the fact that they changed her power set a little bit, which, okay.
They forced the mutant piece in there.
Correct.
Hard.
Correct.
Again, a rush job.
Secret Invasion, 100% got the hit on that. Loki, we know, wasn't rushed because they took their time with it and they split it up into 2 seasons.
Yep.
Echo was definitely just there.
They at least limited themselves there. They didn't show... They didn't go for too long. That felt very Ironheart-esque with, hey, we're going to limit this to a certain, like, more realistic number of episodes.
And you had Agatha riding off the coattails of WandaVision because she was such a great villain in that original show that they're like, you know what? Throw her in a show of her own. Let's see how it goes.
Yep.
And it succeeded in the sense of it
truly as well as it could have.
Correct. It knew what it was.
Yep.
I think if you were to throw some of those characters into a movie, I don't think you're going to get anything from it. I'm just going to say that right now. The only one that...
Like in the sense of they're too minor to be included in the movie?
I just don't think you're going to get enough pull, even with it being a Marvel movie, unless it is a James Gunn ran film, because I am still in shock and awe that Guardians of the Galaxy was able to be pulled off. You could also make the argument for Ant-Man. And even then, you're like, did Ant-Man really pull it off? Because the first one was good, but then it definitely kept going down rather than
was not,
correct.
Was not
Guardians is one of one. I don't think anything else will ever get close to it. I don't think you can throw a She-Hulk movie out there and people are going to go want to see it.
No, and to be clear, like I'm not advocating for, hey, give Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, and She-Hulk solo films. I'm saying make them part of the ensemble.
That's fair.
Yeah. No question. Does a solo movie, is that a bad idea? Yes, that's a bad idea at this juncture. Fold them into the ensemble and they work. But that's how they've always worked as characters. So I'm not really coming up with an original idea here. I'm just saying lean into your strengths.
And the show needs to flesh out those characters more. Yep. That should be the focus of those shows. Yep. Honest to God, I'm looking at this. I don't know how they missed on Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not saying that
they had it cast extraordinarily well with Oscar Isaac.
And still there, thank God.
Yep.
I shouldn't even say miss. Miss is not 100% correct. If they hit on some things and they missed completely on other things.
Give it an incomplete.
I think they tried a concept thinking that it would be a cool concept to put through, and it just did not hit the way that they wanted to.
Yep.
The blackouts completely ruined it.
Yep.
I'm just going to say that right now.
Leaning into the weird of like the Egyptian mythology, like that didn't make the show better.
See, I like that. I like the Egyptian mythology, but they didn't.
They went too heavily into it. They made it the thing, and it's like, I don't think it can be. It can be part of it. I just don't think it can be as much of a highlight as they made.
Khonshu versus the alligator in the background is hard to get behind. 100%. I will give you that. I will give you that by a mile.
I'm not saying ignore it and neglect it. I'm just saying, let's rein it in a bit here, guys.
But the fact that we missed out on Moon Knight fighting the main bad guy, and not just any old actor, even Hawk, fantastic actor.
He brought it.
And he's great.
Yeah.
And I love the dynamic. He's the former avatar of Khonshu going up against the now current avatar.
Yep.
You had everything that you needed. And it just
freaking show it.
It's very tough. Yep. Very tough to get behind. I honestly would have thought it would have been cool to see a little bit of Mark's background on how he became Moon Knight, because they didn't really go into that too much.
Yeah.
He was just already established.
Mm-hmm.
Moon Knight is a fantastic character that I think could get away with a movie. Not right now, because I think the show already kind of set him up to where he is. I think you need to redeem it a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping to God he shows up in Daredevil season 2.
Yeah.
That's the perfect spot for Moon Knight, to be honest with you, for a revival. But
I think the common thread for me, Riles, is that for each one of these shows that we would classify as a success, where we watched it, enjoyed it, and said, man, I'd watch that again sometime. You've got your primary character, but the show is not asking that primary character to carry the show on their back. They set the foundation for sure. But even with Daredevil, like, it's just as rewarding to watch Daredevil fight Kingpin as it is to watch Kingpin manipulate and cajole and twist. That is equally engaging in that show. And they've done a great job with the characters of Karen, Foggy, RIP for now, Bullseye, the Punisher getting introduced via that show. So again, you've got the ensemble element. Where they've missed is when it was Moon Knight and essentially Moon Knight only, She-Hulk and She-Hulk only. These are like worthwhile characters. Heck, even Hawkeye, I know they tried to bring Kate Bishop into the fold. They introduced Echo, but they had
Yelena.
They had Yelena, so that was more of you didn't have a story to tell. So they followed the formula of characters, but the story was non-existent. There wasn't a story there. So I just wish, I think that was part of why Agatha all along worked, is you had Agatha, but you had so many other characters around her that were compelling that it allowed it to be as good as it could be. And Loki, Loki's there, but then you have Owen Wilson as Mobius. You have Short Round hanging out in season 2. You have the alternate version of Loki. You have some phenomenal storytelling of what was the Kang variant's title in the
Victor
show.
Timely.
Yeah, Victor Timely in.
Oh, by the way, one above all, correct?
Something
Or not the one above all. It
close,
was
we're close. I have He Who Must Not Be Named, but that's 100% Voldemort from Harry.
Either way,
Like
Jonathan
Kang.
Majors,
Yeah.
his Kang variants.
Yep. The creation of the TVA, like that was just such a great amalgamation of characters and story and world building.
Yeah.
So it can be done, but it has to be more. The point is, it has to be more than just the namesake that's on the title card. Got to be more than that.
You need a story to tell.
Yeah. And so
you need to tell it
Ironheart,
better.
Yeah. You got Mephisto, you have Zeke Stain, you have the Hood. They're not killing these characters off. They're giving them their time without neglecting Riri, with allowing her to develop as well. So can they do it right? Sure. But they've got to, it probably comes back as much as anything, like we've been championing for years now. Go slower. Take your freaking time.
Magic versus science. Beautiful. What a smart idea.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. Natural conflict. 100%.
And yeah.
And that's why I'm dunking on Wonder Man, because I'm like, you're doing the same wrong thing again. You're introducing a brand new character that hasn't shown up in a movie before. I don't think there's a story to tell here.
Yeah, I need more from that before I'm going to make a judgment call, but I understand your concern, because
my skepticism is real.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. I am all for Marvel busting out 2 to 3 movies a year. Great. That's a pace that I think they can do and do well consistently if it comes at the expense of a show. But if you're going to bring out a show, take your friggin' time, please. Have an actual story that's worth telling. Because it's great to get these B and C, so to speak, level characters. They have value. They just don't have as much depth to them that you can really isolate on them for an entirety of a series. You have to bring other characters into the fold and develop alongside them. It has to be that ensemble effort. It just does.
I look at that stretch after Hawkeye, because if you think about 2021, all of them were connected to a movie at some point or another.
Exactly right.
2022, none of them are connected to a movie.
Nope.
She-Hulk, actually, it's the fact that we aren't allowed to have another Hulk movie that really hurt her.
Fair. Yep.
That 100% hurt her.
Yep.
Nothing to do. That's just unfortunate timing and events.
Yep.
She should have been introduced alongside the Hulk. Thunderbolt Ross should have been more fleshed out next to the Hulk.
Yep.
The fact that you can't figure that out is beyond me.
Still.
Okay, it is beyond me that you haven't figured out how to do another Hulk movie, because that is just asinine to me, and that hurt. That Miss Marvel, that she is a popular enough character where I think she can get a pull. Same with Moon Knight, but still not having her come in somewhere else, I think, is just a missed opportunity in general. Build the hype a little bit more.
Probably would have been better to have had her in the Marvels movie first, and then have that Ms. Marvel show.
They should have reversed it.
Yep.
100%. I agree with you there.
Because you can even get away with wonkying up the time. Like, it can be hey, we're looking back at her origin. You don't have to follow the chronological sequence of, all right, now we have to show Kamala Khan after the Marvels. Show her as you did in the Marvels, and then go back and tell her origin. That's great.
I agree.
There's room for that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, agreed. I think overall there's a balance point to be found there. I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated to see. We know we're getting Daredevil Born Again Part 2 in 2026. The current trajectory is Marvel is scaling back heavily on the TV show in the live action department. It doesn't need to be a full shutdown by any stretch of the imagination, but it does need to be a learn the less of the last 5 years and apply them to your future shows, because they can work. You've got the platform to release them and get them out there to millions of eyeballs very easily. But I think the other piece is apply the lessons that have been demonstrated by the Star Wars shows that work. Again, you guys are neighbors. You should be able to learn with and from each other. You have printed money for over a decade. Quit dipping around with the quality of the visuals and give us something that is both well-developed from a storytelling perspective, from a character development perspective, and that looks dope. There's no reason to go cheap here. There's just not. You have the resources. Freaking use them. Make something that looks spectacular every time. And if you need a little more time to make it look spectacular, take the dang time. Delay it. We're used to it by now.
I think
we
they will.
don't care. Just make it look awesome every time.
I think they will.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
One last thing. I am super excited for Armor Wars, if that is still coming out.
Hope so.
I know it's going to be a movie now. Dude, Ironheart got me stoked for that.
That's great.
Because I think we're going to have Ezekiel back for that movie. I would love to see War Machine and Riri Williams together. I think that will be phenomenal to watch, both of those two together.
Yep.
So,
yeah. If you haven't read the Five Nightmares comics run with Iron Man, where he is battling Zeke Stain, read it. It's a phenomenal, self-contained enough storyline that you can pick it up not having read a single Iron Man comic prior to, and you may never read another Iron Man comic after. Read that freaking comic, because Tony going up against Zeke is tremendous. So dang good. So dang good. Shout out to Matt Fraction. He wrote a banger with that series. Okay, moving on. Hey, it's my turn to recap. I went and saw F1, the Brad Pitt headlined film. And I got to tell you, I know nothing about Formula One racing, and I was delighted by this flick. I'm not sure I really learned a whole heck of a lot about Formula One racing, other than, okay, much more of a team sport than I would have guessed. So respect. And also, it's insane how fast those dudes are hauling. But it was a horrific, well-crafted, high caliber movie. Totally one that if you're going to go see it, go freaking see it in theaters. Biggest screen, loudest speakers that you can possibly find. If you can see it in IMAX, do it. Totally worth it. Our guy Joseph Kosinski of Top Gun Maverick fame is the director of this film, and it feels like the race car version of Top Gun Maverick. I shouldn't say race car, I should be more specific. The Formula One version of Top Gun Maverick. The shots are incredible. You feel like you are in the seat, just like you felt like you were in the cockpit in Top Gun Maverick. The soundtrack is incredible. It's such a wonderful blend of modern music, plus you get a little Led Zeppelin and Queen mixed in there, and then my guy Hans Zimmer bringing his part to the soundtrack as well. It's just a tremendous blend. It varies depending on the character that it's trying to highlight, even the location that it's trying to highlight. Because here's the really, I think, cool and unique thing about Formula One is they're going all over the freaking world. So you're going Mexico, America, England, Africa. Incredible locations. And they did an unreal job of incorporating actual Formula One racetracks, drivers, and crowds in this filming process. Like, I don't know how on earth they pulled it off, but it looked about as genuine as I think it possibly could have looked. And I know that they took time to film themselves in the midst of I shouldn't say in the midst of, but at the start of certain races. I mean, there are actual Formula One drivers all over this movie, which for the sport itself has to be such a cool exposure opportunity. And I know that Formula One has grown exponentially in the last several years. This can only help the cause. The sounds are absolutely outrageous. The effects, of course, are great. This is going to be, I already highlighted the music. This is going to sound a little weird. The freaking voices of every character in this movie are tremendous. Brad Pitt, yeah, I could listen to that guy just sing me to sleep. He just has such a great voice. I'm just going to leave that out there. Jameson Idris, great accent. Love his voice. That dude, you're going to see him in a lot moving forward. He brought it. For a guy that I've not seen in a dang thing prior to this movie, looking forward to seeing him in more. Kerry Condon, bringing the Irish accent. Sounded good. Javier Bardem. Doggone him and his Spanish dulcet tones. He is so good. He is so good.
We do love accents.
Oh my gosh, we 100%. Do. But you have such a blend. You have Brad Pitt, who's just stereotypical American accent. I already highlighted the others. It just sounds tremendous. And the visuals are so rich. I'm sure there was some CGI in this movie somewhere, but I couldn't tell you where it was. There was not a single scene in this movie where you could go, oh, CGI, there we go. It was incredibly meticulous in making everything look and feel as genuine as it possibly could from a visual point of view. So highly recommend. The story itself is also solid. I don't think you're going to see or, be particularly shocked by anything that happens in the story. It's fairly by the book, but very rewarding nonetheless. Also, a little shout out to my girl, Carrie Condon. You mentioned Friday earlier as a voice of the Iron Man suit.
Look at that.
That's her right there. Carrie Condon.
Full circle.
Voice of Friday. Full circle. Carrie, appreciate you. So highly recommend F1. Finally, on the recap front, How to Train Your Dragon. I'll be brief. It was solid. I don't think they did anything different, for better or for worse, than the animated film. Okay? But the soundtrack from that movie is so dang good. I could listen to that all day long. Listen, they did not, and this is a key thing for me, they didn't get lazy at all with the CGI. It looked really solid. Each dragon was designed really well, great level of detail and the uniqueness that you saw in the animated flick. So I appreciate that if you're going to do an adaptation, don't make it cheap or hastily, and they didn't. The only thing that I would ask is, listen, you don't need to change the source material, but you can feel free to show something new. That'd be my one ask, is I don't think they did that at all. It was blow for blow. You're watching the animated movie in the live action form as much as you can with CGI dragons. But everybody that was in the film, I thought did a great job of bringing their best. Nobody mailed it in. It was safe, but solid. My kids loved it. I enjoyed it. I know it's been out for a few weeks now, but I wanted to give it a little shout out. So there you go. I know you're not going to go see it. It's okay.
I will stand strong.
That's right. You stay strong. But I enjoyed it.
I'm a man with principles.
That's right. Real quick before we get into the Superman talk, senior correspondent Andy reported to us that Jurassic World Rebirth, while solid and not, I quote, too scary, also included egregious product placement. So good for Snickers, bad for moviegoers that are looking for escapism and are instead reminded that when hungry, grab a Snickers. But we'll never sell out here on the pod. That's not true. I would 100% sell out. So Snickers, if you're looking for an endorsement, I'm your Huckleberry. Sign me up right now. I'm a man of
principles. I only eat Reese's.
I was just going to say. So which is your principle? Kit Kats, Reese's. We got options.
Yeah. I stand by my brand.
Thank you, Andy, for that report. We appreciate your work on that front. Okay, quick look ahead to what's up next on the docket. Superman coming out July 11th. A couple weeks later, Fantastic Four, First Steps, July 25th. And also sneaking in there, not really on the theatrical release.
The fact that you put this on here is...
Gilmore 2.
You haven't seen the first one.
I've seen it. There are others I haven't, but I have seen all of Happy Gilmore. How dare you? And not really how dare you. There's a lot of Adam Sandler movies I haven't seen.
Yeah, don't play that game with me. Don't play that game with me.
Trying to redeem myself. Adam, Happy Gilmore 2, July 25th, being released directly on Netflix. So without further ado, we're coming up on the end of our summer run. It's going to come faster than we're even ready for, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's spend some time talking and prepping for Superman. Let's make our predictions. Beans, what are you expecting out of Superman?
I'm expecting a banger, dude. I'm expecting a great movie.
Okay.
My expectations are high. I'm not even a Superman fan, and my expectations are high. If I don't fall in love with Superman after this movie, it failed. Failed 100%. If I'm not like Lex Luthor as the most badass supervillain I've ever seen in my entire life, this movie failed. I legit have very high hopes. I think James Gunn is going to kill this. I really do. Listen, this is make or break for the next 10 projects DC does. This is make or break. If this blows, Well, cancel the entire new DC universe because you need Superman to succeed. This is very important.
At least there's no pressure, right?
Yeah, no pressure. No pressure. Yeah, here's what I would say overall. I think James Gunn understands and knows what he wants out of a Superman film, and he wants to keep the original heart of Superman in this movie. That is not what we got with Zack Snyder. That is not a knock to Zack Snyder. Man of Steel is not the
It's not your direct line canon Superman.
Correct.
It's just not.
It is a darker, more somber take on the Man of Steel.
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
I don't think we're going to get that.
Totally agree.
We're not going to get that here. I think we're going to get a nice, hopeful Superman, a young gun. He's ready to do good for the world.
Yep.
And he's going to get hit with, the world is not as good as I want it to be. But guess what? Mm-hmm. If I'm here, I can make it happen. Mm-hmm. I'm very pumped. I think Corn Sweat is going to kill this. Mm-hmm. Again, Lex Luthor will be the star of the show, star of the movie, star of the film. We're going to be talking about Nicholas Holt's portrayal of Lex Luthor till the end of time. I really do believe that. Again, very high hopes for this movie, clearly. So I really hope that the electrical guitar playing the theme song does come back in. That'd be sick. So I think I personally think they nailed it. I think where you might get a little concerned is the world building portion, because it almost feels like we might get a little too carried away with the world building. Might just get a little too carried away.
Fair.
I am excited though to see where it goes.
Yeah.
So that I have high expectations, high hopes. And honestly, if you're going into this movie with zero expectations and low hopes, I don't know what to say to you, to be honest with you, because you need to be. This is Superman. You have to have hope here. Ugh, gross.
Oh my gosh, you were so again.
No, this is at least
got it.
No, this at least has to do with character. All right.
Sure.
But my point is,
can you tell yourself that?
Stop it. Stop it. I blame you. Ugh.
I accept this.
Anyways, I don't even remember where I was going with that. Go. It's you. You ruined it.
Hope. I love it. Look at this. Look at you. There's just a Hershey's delicious softness coming out of you right now.
Go jump in a lake.
Yeah, you can later. I love your take on this. I'm doing everything I can to stay really sober-minded about this movie. Okay. The one, and this is a silly thing for me to get caught on. Okay. You provided the hopeful outlook, and I love that. I'm going to join you here in a moment. But first, I'm going to give you my pessimistic side that tends to come out when my hopes start getting a little high. I have a hard time not getting caught up in run times of movie as a barometer of confidence that the movie has in itself. And this movie is coming in at a crisp couple hours. Okay. We're not crossing much beyond that particular threshold. And so I chose to do a little looking back to see the run times of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And I thought it was a fascinating sequence. Volume 1 came in at a fine 2 hour and 1 minute runtime. Volume 2, 2 hours and 16 minutes. And Volume 3 beefed up to 2 hours and 30 minutes. So I am wondering now, can this movie be the equivalent of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 for James Gunn in the DC universe, where it sets a healthy tone for what is to come? I don't know that I'm willing to put the expectations of this movie is going to be an absolute freaking banger, but I do think it's critical, and I do think that it will be good. How good? That's a sliding scale. Are we pushing up to the 9er, or are we drifting down to the... It's a solid 7, okay? So I think it needs to be somewhere in that 7 to 8 to 9 range, and it's probably going to depend person to person on where they fall with that movie. But what's wild to me, okay, the original Superman trilogy concluded way back in 1983, before even I was born, okay? So it's been a while. The very next Superman movie that we got was in 2006, a 23-year gap.
That is crazy.
That's
to think about.
Wild. With Superman Returns starring Brandon Routh, or Routh, sorry, Brandon, and Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. But here's the thing, that movie, even though it had 23 dang years, wasn't willing to like start over. It actually felt obliged to essentially carry on from where Superman 3 left off in some ways, which was a really weird and unfortunate move. Because Brandon Routh, like, a phenomenal job as Clark Kent in particular, and he was okay as Kal-El. He was actually probably a stronger Clark Kent than a Kal-El. Not his fault, but the direction that they took with that story was a choice. And I think the survey would suggest not a strong choice. So then we skip ahead to 2013, Man of Steel. Again, we're making choices. Are they good choices? Depends on who you ask. But again, we're not getting, my point is, nobody is willing or has been willing to make the dang layup, to present Superman as he is, which is a shameless beacon of hope, where he's like, well, listen, I believe in truth, justice, in the American way. I believe in the inherent good in people, or at the very least, the potential of people to be good, to choose good, even if their human nature isn't good. We've not had that for decades. And I think that is where this movie can most safely land the Superman plane of present him as who he is in an unashamed fashion. And that's why it's fascinating that James Gunn, one of the peak producers of ironic humor in his movies, is going to be presenting a non-ironic take of Superman as a character. I'm encouraged by the fact that there are multiple other characters that you would not necessarily expect to be in this movie. I totally agree with you. I think Nicholas Hoult is going to be an outstanding Lex Luthor. But I also think we're going to really enjoy Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. I think she's going to be outstanding. And we have lacked a terrific Lois Lane for decades. And that's nothing against Amy Adams. I love Amy Adams as an actress. I don't think she was the right fit at all for Lois Lane.
Do we make that argument with Jimmy Olsen too?
Yeah. Yes.
We're getting a good Jimmy Olsen, it looks like.
Legit Jimmy Olsen, which we haven't had either. So I think James Gunn is willing to make the layups, and if he can incorporate the right amount of weird with the Justice Gang and let Lex be Lex, I think we have an opportunity here to start with a really fresh, young, hopeful Superman, a nefarious Lex Luthor who just wants to kill the dude. It's like, that's great. We need the most pure forms of these characters and not feel like we have to apologize for them. And, roundabout way, James Gunn is the right fit for not apologizing for who you are and for who a character is that he's presenting. And so he may end up being the right fit for the Superman character. I'm not saying that I'm predicting this movie to be in that 9 to 10 range, but I am really hopeful that it's going to land in that solid range that we're going to be really content with in the moment and excited for the future of these characters. So with that being said, here's the biggest question I have for the movie. Who is Ultraman? Because in all of the marketing, they've kept the dude completely veiled, all right, covered from head to toe in the Ultraman suit with the big U on his chest. There are a few options here, and you feel free to add one if you have one that I haven't listed. Is it Lobo? Is it Bizarro? Is it actually just Ultraman? Okay, so an alternate universe's Superman, all right? Is it Supergirl? Or is there another option that you would list there that I have not listed out?
I mean, you could maybe list Connor Kent, but I think it's too early for
Superman
Connell.
clone.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that'd be the other one maybe, but I think those are solid.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's only one on here though.
Hit me with it.
I think it's Bizarro.
Yeah.
I think it's 100% Bizarro because this seems like the most Lex Luthor thing to do.
Yeah.
Is to be like, okay, I need to introduce somebody that's better than Superman to the American public. What's bigger than Super? Ultra. We're going to go with Ultraman because that one-ups Superman. And that's the most Lex Luthor thing you could do.
Yeah.
It's way too early to introduce Earth 2 or Earth 3. It'd be Earth 3.
Yeah.
Way too early.
Way too early to be introducing alternate universe. I totally agree with you.
And God, no. Totally you got to stay away from what Marvel's doing.
Yep.
That's an L and an L and another L.
Yep.
Okay? Lots
Don't
of L's.
Multiverse it.
Right?
Don't do it.
We got Lobo coming in with Supergirl, and I think they're going to stay away from Supergirl in this altogether. I think they're going to keep them apart for this movie, at least. I'd be very surprised if she's...
I don't think she's going to have a primary...
She might
even
cameo.
Secondary, right. It's going to be very cameo, either literally cameo or cameo adjacent. Very, very little more than that.
So to me, I think Bizarro is option one.
Yep.
I think that is the strong contender, the winner.
And doesn't it make sense? I love what you're saying with Lex, too, from a marketing point of view, for him to create the Superman clone, have it go not well in the sense that, oh, this dude's fugly. Like, really not good to look at. It's like, all right, we got to cover him head to toe. How do we make him look cool? Top to bottom, black suit, big U, Ultraman. This is who you want as your hero. I love the Bizarro take. I'm totally on board with
God forbid, don't let him talk.
Right. Just don't say anything.
That's why the mask is covering up everything.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to speak. We're not allowed to look at him.
Yep.
So I think that's just the most... You see him going to the Fortress of Solitude. That just seems like a nice little easy way for him to get some Superman DNA. Mm-hmm. He's got the engineer on his side for this. That just it's adding up too much. It just makes too much sense here. And I'm okay with you introducing Bizarro in the first one.
Yeah.
I really am. Bizarro's not like one where I'm like, oh, hold off on Bizarro. You know? I'm good with this.
Right.
I'm good with this mix. It gives Lex somebody to actually match up with Superman toe to toe from the alien strength category. So that's I'm going to go with Bizarro.
I'm totally on board with you. I think it's got to be Bizarro as well. As you said, way too early, and frankly, it's always too early to start introducing multiverse stuff. Just don't do it. We don't need it. Just don't.
And it could be somebody from the Authority.
Sure.
I just don't think that makes sense because I don't think anybody would care if the mask gets pulled off and they're like, oh, it's another member of the Authority. Because nobody's going to know
it would be,
who that is.
Yeah, it'd be real tricky if they somehow managed to make it Supergirl because of how substantially sized Ultraman is being shown in the marketing. Like, that would take some doing to have duped us in that way this whole time. So is it possible? Sure. It just seems a lot less likely. There's a path. It's just a really narrow path to get there.
There is one other one we left out.
Okay.
Doomsday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think pull the trigger on Doomsday.
Yeah, agreed.
I think the way he was received, the last time he graced the screen, I think they're going to hold off on Doomsday. So.
Yeah, as they should.
There we go.
As they really should. Okay, second question for you. Which of the, let's call it supporting cast of heroes, are you most looking forward to seeing in action? So we got Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, you got Hawkgirl, you got Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho is involved as well. I think that covered it.
Yeah.
Unless you want to throw the Engineer in there, but obviously Engineer is more.
Guy Gardner is up there, but after reading World's Finest, I'm pumped for Metamorpho.
Yeah.
That seems like a weird pull for me, but
I respect
that dude is a Swiss Army knife, and he's going to be so much fun to see on the screen to the point where I'm like, let's see what you do with him. That's a guy that I would watch a TV show on. That's a fun character.
I like that.
So I am all aboard on the Metamorpho train. That's one. Guy is a layup. That he's going to be fine. He's going to be great. I know what I'm going to get out of it. I am way more interested to see what they do with Metamorpho, how much effect he actually has. I'm assuming Kryptonite's going to come into play with him because he can. Right. That's something he can do.
Generate it. Yep.
So I'm sure that's why Lex has him. I mean, there's a whole storyline. It's just playing out in my head. But point is, that's my choice.
That's great. I'm going to say Mr. Terrific because ever since Eddie McPhee got done dirty in X-Men First Class as Darwin,
the guy that can adapt to anything but dies immediately.
It's like, well, that didn't add up.
Liar.
I've been lied to here. Mr. Terrific is a extraordinary character. Anyhow, he's a relatively new character that's been introduced in the comics. I say relatively, so not in the last 10 years, but he's been worthwhile every time he's shown up in the comics. He is exceptionally intelligent. He's a very tech-based character, so I love the blend of folding him into a partnership of sorts with Superman. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch him cut loose with his tech as well.
There you go.
Super, super looking forward to that. Last thing I'll say is I am also really looking forward to our guy David Cord Sweat and seeing his Clark Kent. Because for as much as I love Henry Cavill as Superman, I think he was a really ill-fitting Clark Kent. That part never really worked.
He wasn't allowed to be Clark Kent.
And that's much. The thing. Absolutely. Didn't have much time, didn't have much opportunity. The dude, you look at him, you're like, sure, Superman, totally get it. But then you look at him in Clark Kent, and you're like, what? This doesn't make, you can't make this guy look like Clark Kent. David Gordon Sweat, I mean this in the highest praise possible. I can see getting a little more chameleon-esque with, he can fit into that Clark Kent sphere a little bit better. So I'm looking forward to that in a low-key way. Anything else for you on the Superman front before we get to see it this upcoming weekend?
No, I'm good. Let's go.
Exciting stuff. All right. With that, it is time for another classic JP in the Beans top 5. This top 5, inspired by Ironheart, is the top 5 Iron Man armors of all time. Beans, without further ado, you go first.
I was very excited about this list because I geek out over Iron Man armors. I mean, look at that. I got the Hall of Armors right there. So,
shooting on top 5 Iron Man pops.
Oh, yeah, there's too many. And also not worth it.
Can't win it now.
No. Not worth it. Okay. Number 5, I have the Model 42, the black and gold from the Marvel Now push. And no other reason than that's a good looking suit.
Sure.
Right? It's a nice little change of pace from the red and gold.
Yep.
He's got the black and gold, and you're like, why don't you rock black more often? This is slick. This is sleek. And it's a good looking armor. That's why it's at number 5. So that's pretty much it there.
Hey, the optics are great. Optics matter. We know Tony, he cares about optics. All right, therefore, my number 5 is the optically worse Ironmonger, the OG, the original by Tony that he had to put together with scraps.
Oh, you're talking Mark 1.
I'm talking Mark 1.
You threw me off with the Iron
sorry. I know I'm crossing my streams here. I love that suit because it highlights for me the peak of Tony Stark's innovative problem-solving abilities. It is obviously on the lowest end of the totem pole in terms of actual firepower and capabilities. However, it shows and represents better than any other suit, in my opinion, that Tony Stark has made at what it is that allows him to be more than just a dude in a battle suit. The creativity that comes out of each suit started with his ability to literally scrap that bad boy together. So that's my number 5.
Are you talking MCU version then? Or are you talking about like original?
Yeah, good question. I'm certainly leaning more into the MCU here.
I would as well, because it does, for as clunky and weird as it looks, it works. I don't feel like you could go the classic comic route for that one and have it work well.
No. Part of my favorite scenes in any of the Iron Man movies, and I will hold this up for this armor, is when Tony has made his escape. He's blowing up the cache of weapons, and then he rockets out of the blast of all of the ordnance exploding around him. And for a split second, you think, oh, he's making a glorious getaway. Thank you. And then his jetpack or jet boots peter out. He just goes straight down into the sandy depths. So it was short-lived, but glorious nonetheless. That's my number 5. Okay, my number 4, and I'm going to lean pretty heavily into the movies and even shows here. So this pull is the Mjolnir armor from the animated series Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This came out early 2010s, and in this particular episode, the Avengers had ended up in Asgard. Loki has been doing his usual mechanizations behind the scenes, twisting and manipulating things to the point where all of a sudden Odin again is freaking sleeping, because classic Odin, asleep on the job. Loki has harnessed the Odin force that he's now calling the Loki force. Everybody's in trouble, and Tony links up with the dwarves, and he's like, I need some freaking armor, guys. And they craft armor out of similar metal to what Mjolnir was crafted out of. And so then Tony Stark ends up with a entire head to toe suit of battle armor that can summon thunder and lightning. That was really fun. So that's my number 4. It's just fun. The power of Thor wrapped in Iron Man armor.
Oh, that's
a deep pull.
That was a trip. That was a trip.
There's a journey for
I respect it, though. Number 4, we're going with classics here. The Hulkbuster armor. The Hulkbuster has to make this list at some point.
Yes, it does.
Jeez, the original Hulkbuster in the comics with the Juggernaut-esque dome.
Oh,
beautiful armor.
Look.
That is a beautiful armor. They did a great job transferring it over into the movies. When that thing pops in an Age of Ultron, you're like, oh, here we go. Now, do I wish that fight was a little bit better and a little bit more fleshed out? Yes, I do. Okay.
What about it from that fight?
It just was like...
I'm curious.
I don't know. It just felt like, mind manipulation again. Okay, because we had that with Hawkeye, and now we're having it with the Hulk.
Yep.
And I get having the Hulkbuster armor in place in case Hulk does go on a rampage. I don't know. I felt like they just pulled the trigger on that a little bit too early just to get the Hulkbuster armor in place. I feel like the Hulkbuster deserves to be like a finale suit.
Yeah.
And this was pulled in the first act.
Sure.
That's where I'm at with it.
Okay.
It deserved...
I respect that take. I enjoy that sequence a whole heck of a lot.
It's a good fight.
But I respect your take.
It is a good fight. Yeah. It could have been executed a little bit better personally.
Okay.
So I like the Hulkbuster at number 4.
That's great.
Number 3. I like the War Machine armor. The War Machine armor is sick. When they dropped that in Iron Man 2, Rhodey finally suits up, because it was a missed opportunity to not have him suit up in the first one. Okay, we had the tease.
Yeah, big tease.
We had the big old tease. Next time. And for Terrence Howard, it was not next time.
There was no next time.
But anyways, Don Cheadle steps in, and it was such a good looking suit, even though it did not perform very well at all because of Justin Hammer.
Freaking Hammer, man. What a dog.
And the storytelling afterwards.
With the Gatling gun.
He did.
That part was really legit.
Well, and that's what...
The Widowmaker didn't so much work, but the Gatling gun, that's cool.
It was sweet.
Yeah.
And that's what you want out of an armor, is just more guns. Right? It looks... It just looks great.
Yeah.
So that's my number 3, the War Machine armor.
I love that. It certainly... Because with as sleek as Tony consistently keeps his armors, it's just that great wish fulfillment of, hey, what would happen if we beefed up here a little bit, right? And you get that with the War Machine armor.
Well, and it's not just it's not like a Power Rangers kind of move where they're all look the same, but they're just different colors, and the mascot's just a little different per Ranger, right? This is Iron Man. This is the base. He's the base model,
right?
And then you go to War Machine. It's like, that guy's like a tank, essentially. So it is nice to have that variation, for sure.
And Tony would never give Justin Hammer credit. But he indirectly does, in my opinion, give Justin Hammer credit by not removing the Gatling gun when he gets his hand on the War Machine armor, right? Like, that's an endorsement right there of, this is a good idea. A good idea. Again, publicly, would you ever say that? No. But nonetheless, it's there. Okay, my number 3 is the Hulkbuster armor. Totally agree with you. The Juggernaut domed look is super fun. I really enjoyed in that particular fight sequence in Age of Ultron. The Hulk is ripping out components of the suit. There's fresh components firing in to replace a gauntlet that's been damaged. I love the moment in that fight where the arm
stay
down, just like pins it, and it wraps up Hulk's arm and just pins him down. Like, that's super fun. Again, wish fulfillment, right? Do you actually want to have Iron Man in that armor all the time, always? No. I also like, in a weird way, how Bruce Banner has a real hard time with the armor when he gets into it in Endgame. I think that's, if not Hulkbuster adjacent, and he really struggles with it, but manages to use it to effect by rocketing the arm away and taking, what's that character's name? There's giants in there, but whatever. And he just explodes on the top of the Wakandan dome.
I know
that's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my number 3. My number 2 is the nanotech armor that we see in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. It's extremely impossible. Like, it just shouldn't work, but it's mind-bending, it's wonderful, and the auto repair and weapon forming features are really sweet. Really freaking cool. The fact that Tony isn't limited to the repulsor blasts, which are a steady go-to, but he can form, actual hand-to-hand combat weapons with it. He can shift weight, and it's really, really wild and hard, to stay on top of. And I mean that in a good way. It's a lot of, like all these armors, this one is one of the most fun to watch. So that's my number 2.
My number 2 is the Mark 42 armor, aka the Iron Man 3 main armor.
Ooh.
It is a sleek,
looks good.
It's a good looking suit. All right. I like the more gold incorporated into this one.
Yep.
Do I like necessarily that all the pieces fly together and separately? I don't know if I get behind that too much.
Sure.
We're going off of pure looks here. It's just a slick looking suit. And I wish they would have leaned more into that moving forward as well. But it was nice to see that one have the main main rub.
Well, and it comes through in the clutch, right? I mean, he's able to manipulate the armor and have it protect Pepper when his house is getting just freaking blown up. So the manipulation that he has with that armor to be able to legitimately control and send it to where he and who he wants it to cover, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
great,
really cool. Great number 2. Number 1.
My number 1 is the Model Prime armor, Mark 51 or Model 51 in the comics. It is just a slick looking suit. Tony has essentially incorporated every suit of armor that he's ever had into this suit. I don't really care about that too much. I honestly just love the suit. It's a good looking suit. It does have a samurai mode for whatever reason. That was hilarious. It was awesome.
If you can, you should.
Literally just rocking a sword for whatever reason. It's legitly, there's no reason for it, but it's beautiful.
Right.
So and the stealth mode on that armor as well, fantastic. It's just a good looking armor that can get a lot of shit done. So that's my number 1.
I love that number 1. Great number 1. Samurai mode. Come on. My number 1 is the Extremis armor. Now I'm pulling from the comics, okay? So the specific Extremis storyline. Again, I mentioned the 5 Nightmares storyline earlier. That comes a little bit further down the line after Extremis. But Extremis, that storyline provided one of the coolest and most foundational upgrades for Iron Man in the last 20 to 25 years of comics, because it changed from, hey, the suit is this exterior abstract thing all the time, and it still can be, to where Tony's going, I need to upgrade my biology. And there's some real foreshadowing of what Zeke Stain is eventually going to do with this technology. But Tony tries to upgrade his body as much as he does his armor so that the armor can be a part of who he is, literally. And so there's this Extremis virus that he essentially puts into himself so that he can meld with the armor much more quickly and therefore react faster and execute different actions faster. It's a crazy concept, but it just really got very granular with how the armor functions and how Tony, as the human within the armor, responds and reacts to it. One of, I think, the coolest concepts in comics, and just something that every armor that followed really built off of, where it's like, hey, Tony and the armor are more symbiotic than they ever have been before. So that's my number 1.
Oh, it's just such a foundational suit too, because that really just defined I'd say the 2000s.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes.
That was the Civil War armor, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So
you don't get nanotech before the Extremis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good looking suit.
Yeah. Really
100%.
freaking cool. Really freaking cool. Beans, well done. That's a phenomenal top 5. One of the least controversial we've had in some time.
It's true. Because there's not a bad Iron Man armor.
No, there's not.
I mean, that's part of it. There's no wrong choice.
No. That's good. Beans, well done. Great episode. Take us home, my man.
Hey.
A lot of good stuff.
Godspeed.
Peace.